Hello, welcome to this training session for mediators. My name is Inely Cesna, and today I'm going to talk to you about mastering communication skills during mediation. So let's go right into our charts. And here we go. Mastering communication skills has got to be one of the most important things a mediator can do, because in our communication, we are doing several things. First, we are setting the tone, right? And this involves all the nonverbal experience of the parties. So the environment, the tone of voice, the speed, just the ambience is all having an impact on the person and what the person brings with her to the mediation table. The other thing that communication does is turn the conflict from unhealthy into healthy, or vice versa. If we're not very versed in our communication skills, we may turn a healthy conversation into an unhealthy conversation where conflicts really takes on and picks up. But basically here, what we're going to see are good habits, good communication tips that we can apply with excellence. And my recommendation is that we apply those communication skills in every communication, including the mediation table, but not only there, in every situation in our lives. So let's move right into it. Setting the tone. Paraverbal communication means the tone, the pitch, the speed and pace of our voice, the volume with which we talk. It can also have to do with the vocal variety, the melody in our voice, and the posture and the eye contact. So all of these elements are having an impact on the person in front of us. Often this is unconscious. We may have a posture or an eye contact that reflects, something that's going on inside of her and has nothing to do with the person that is in front of us, but they don't know. And so we want to practice to have an open posture, an eye contact, a volume of communication that has some kind of a welcoming melody to it. Speak in a pace where the other person can listen, with a tone and a pitch that it's inviting, that invokes dialogue. And as you can see in the chart here, nonverbal cues actually are the greatest part of our communication. 55% of communication happens non-verbally, and 38% of it being vocal, the words that we express, the tone of voice, the pitch, the speed, and only 7% being the exact words that we say. So just bringing that into our attention so we can start associating what we do and how we do what we do in terms of communication with the impact that it causes. Now, how do we turn an unhealthy conversation into a healthy situation? And how do we know the difference between the two? Some can be very obvious. The unhealthy will be like a debate, more confrontation, while the healthy will be like a dialogue, maybe a carefrontation. There's more of a caring involved there. The unhealthy is looking for the flaws and is developing counter arguments, right, to confront the other side, while the healthy conflict is listening to discover. It's listening to put ourselves in the other person's shoes. We are listening to understand. In the unhealthy ways, we often ignore feelings. In fact, we don't want to deal with them because it's too big of an issue. We don't want to get involved in that. But in the healthy part of communication, we welcome feelings. Like, there is no resolution that doesn't involve feelings. Feelings is a huge part of any conflict. So how can we deal with conflict as if it didn't exist? So we need to acknowledge them. We don't have to resolve them, but we can acknowledge, I see that they're here. I see that you're angry. I see that you're frustrated. And we'll talk more about that in the next slides. In the unhealthy relationships, in the unhealthy conversations, we ignore the relationship factor. We don't care about the relationship. And part of a healthy conversation is the caring and the fact that you want to continue and build a relationship. In case of dependency court, we want to maintain some kind of relationship. You're talking about families, you're talking about parents and children that whether they like each other or not, they're going to have to live with one another. So an unhealthy perspective usually focuses on the problem as you, is the finger pointing. You did this, you did that, and it's your fault. And it's finding that it's you. On a healthy situation, we look at the problem as an it. This is the problem we have in front of us. Where is our children going to go to school? How can we provide the best we can to our children? How can we deal with financial restraints to manage their future? So we look at the problem as an it, and then we combine our forces in order to deal with that issue. So we separate the person from the problem. And in that way, there is more likelihood we can work together to overcome whatever that problem may be. In an unhealthy conversation, we are defending ourselves. We are trying to be right. We are trying to win, to show our own views. While in a healthy situation, we are trying to understand, improve our perspectives. So we are searching for ways in which we can learn and we can improve and we can expand. In an unhealthy conversation, we assume only one side has the solution. It's an either or. So one side has the solution and the other don't. In a healthy conversation, we start looking at how can we incorporate a little bit of everything, and how can we create something together that would be better than that which we would create alone. In an unhealthy situation, we have polarized views, so it's right and wrong and good and bad and beautiful and ugly. While in a healthy situation, we allow space for a mistake, we allow space for apologies, we allow space for reconciliation, and we kind of start working on the gray areas, how we're going to overcome, how can we let go of what was and create something better moving forward. In an unhealthy conversation, usually there is a lot of resistance, there is rigidity, we are contracted and stubborn. In a healthy situation, we start releasing that contraction, opening more space for creativity, for change, for opportunity, and stepping out of the resistance. In unhealthy situations, only one side wins and the other loses. If I win, you have to lose. If you win, I have to lose. And in a healthy situation, we start looking at this more creatively. How can we have a win-win solution? How can I win here and you win there? So I win here and lose here, but you win there and lose in another situation. So we start trading, we start negotiating, we start a process of give and take with greater flexibility. And finally, as I mentioned before, the unhealthy conversation may feel more confrontational, more controversial, and more of an attract, more abrasion. While in a healthy situation, we have more of the carefrontation. Yes, we have differences, but we are willing to deal with our differences because we care, because there's something that we care in common. In dependency court, usually that's the children. We care about those children, so we're going to deal with our differences in a way to overcome them because we care. All right, so the next step here is to find our communication excellence. So we are going to learn 12 tips for great communication. And some of these are very easy, right? Very kind of common sense. And it's just a matter of us being aware of it practicing it more and more often so it becomes natural to us. So let's start with one, which is intention articulation. What's intention articulation? Is our ability to express our intention, our ability to express what is our purpose, what are our goals, what are our values, what are the desired outcomes that we wish for, right? What we aim here. And setting that purpose and the direction and those values right from the get-go, it really helps us get there. It provides a direction to everyone involved. So it's highly recommended that in our conversations, we say, look, what I would like to achieve here is, I would like to come up with something we can do about this situation. I would like us to agree. I would like us to work together, whatever that may be. We create sort of a mental framework to combine efforts and work together. And so we can express that intention through spoken words. We can write a statement. We can send an email so the person comes prepared. There is a lot of body language and facial expression that is going to be congruent with what you're saying so that it shows the genuineness that is involved there. And there's also symbolic action, symbols, the ways we shake our hand or the fact that we do look eye to eye, maybe symbolizing, the legitimacy and the genuine of our intention as we speak. So it's a way of translating what we hold in our hearts into what we want to manifest into the world, right? Intention, articulation. All right, let's go to the next one. The next one is called the matching principle. And it's very common, right? As little children, we learn from one another by mimicking. We mimic one another. That's the way we learn. Therefore, the matching principle is like matching the other person's energy, if you will. And we can match their body language or their vocabulary, use words that they are using, that they are comfortable with. We can match intensity, except if it's too much of a, if it's too intense of a conversation, you want to bring forward some kind of calming down. But we want to match laughter, for example. If someone says a joke and they laugh really loud, we want to laugh really loud with them because it's a way of connecting to what they just said. And it can also be a way of taking dominion over the conversation. A lot of people will tell you a joke that is not funny at all, and then they start laughing super loudly. They are the only one person laughing in the room, and it's a way of dominating the room, of creating sort of like imposing their presence upon the room. So it can be used that way. But in building rapport, in building trust, usually we want to match the emotions. So if the person is sad, you recognize that sadness. If the person is happy, we recognize that happiness is part of a strategic adaptation. It creates a sense of alignment, and it makes communication a lot more efficient as we feel connected to one another. Another one here, the next one here is called the casual connection. Casual connection are small, spontaneous talk. And sometimes in our busy lives, we let that go. We don't want to spend time with casual connection, but in a mediation table, that can really change the game. What we want to do with spontaneous conversation is to create kind of a human connection that goes beyond the issue at hand, right? So if from the get-go, we can create this rapport, through an ice break, an ice break, kind of informal, relaxed, lighthearted conversation, highlighting whatever commonalities we may see. Oh, I like to read books. Oh, I do too. Which book you're reading? Oh, interesting. I'm reading this one. So it creates kind of a human connection that helps us when we are moving forward towards harder conversations and conflicts. And we can use pets and music and travel and all kinds of subjects for this topic, right? So it can start just with openness and optimism, just innocent curiosity. How's your day going? How was the traffic getting here? How are you feeling today? How's your job? How's your day? How was your weekend? Whatever it may be, we can relax. We don't have to take it too seriously. And it can go towards, general information. How are you? Just the weather, you can comment on the context, the weather, you can create some kind of appropriate compliment, nice shoes or nice background if you're on Zoom. You can ask for opinion. How do you like this weather versus the cold breeze we had yesterday or something like that? And just general information. What time is it where you are? Or how's the weather where you are, whatever the general information may be. Those are little hooks that we can create for casual communication. Another way we can go with this is shared experiences. So it's the how and who and the what. How did you like the speech or the event? How did you like the process that you're going through? Who told you about this? What did you enjoy the most? What are your preferences? And there you can start picking up any common interests. Oh, I like that too. Oh, this is how I found out about this as well. And there you create this casual connection we are talking about. But there was a situation where I was in a mediation and a party came late. And I never took the time to create a small talk and to do the casual connection with this party. And it really reflected later on. The party was rigid and he maintained that rigidity throughout the mediation. It became very difficult to open up until actually the end, when we broke on the side and I had an opportunity to talk on the side and shift the energy. But it has a huge impact on the conversation, on the mediation itself. The next one is also a very powerful technique, and it's active listening, right? What does that mean? It means that we are undivided. We are not multitasking. We are there, present, inside of us as well, because we may be present with our bodies, but our minds, may be someplace else. But we want to bring our minds, our bodies, our emotions to this moment, to this breath in an open body posture, and utilize of that genuine curiosity to listen to what's being said. We can intervene occasionally with, I hear you, or tell me more about that. Oh, this is interesting, or something like that. But in active listening, we are listening to 4 elements. One is the content, the kind of vocabulary the person is choosing to use, because that's reflecting their emotional context, the kinds of words they use. Also the paraverbal cues, their tonality, their posture, their facial expressions. What is that saying about where they are? Emotions are often not spoken. Emotions are often translated from paraverbal cues, from the vocabulary, from the tonality, from the intensity. So all of this is being translated. And finally, meaning. Words have different meanings for different people. So you want to understand the vocabulary that this person is using according to the meaning they give to it. Right? Someone may talk about fear as something super exciting. They jump off an airplane with a parachute and they paid a lot of money to do that. And that was so exciting, to have that kind of fear. And other people may talk about fear as something frightening. Jumping off an airplane would be in the last case possible scenario. And so you want to understand the words within the context and the consciousness of the person in front of us. So we listen for these 4 things: content, paraverbal cues, emotions, and meaning. So the next The next communication skill we call framing and explaining. And this is kind of like shaping the context before delivering a message. We want to explain the context, right? We want to offer the context before giving the message, because that context will create possibilities for the message to be received, right? So we're using specific language for that. We are controlling the flow, right, by highlighting certain aspects and downplaying others. We're using examples and defining terms. So if a party is saying something, we want to repeat back, we want to parrot back what they said, highlighting, the parts of it that we want the other party to, the second party to hear, and you want to downplay things that are weeds in the garden, right? Highlight the opportunities and downplay what can create more of a conflict. We want to use example, we want to define terms so that we frame and explain the situation in a way that can be better understood by everyone involved. The other one is open-ended questions. Open-ended questions are any questions that requires more than a yes or no answer. So those are questions that require a deeper elaboration by the person answering them. And there's different ones, intention, asking about intentions. What are your beliefs, your preferences, and your values? These questions usually will prompt the person to go deeper in order to answer the question. So tell me more about this. What does it mean to you? What do you value most? Those are questions that will require a deeper reflection before the person can answer. Another one is the how. How did this happen? How could it have been solved? How could the future be? Right? How could this help? This whole how invites the imagination, invites creativity, and invites deeper levels of response. The other one is who. Who was there? Who do you trust? Who don't you trust? Who could you rely on? Who could support you? So it asks the person to then investigate who are the players around. Next one is the what questions. What do you suggest? What it will be like for you? What makes sense to you? What's most important to you? It's all inviting them to go deeper. Where? Where did it happen? Where would you suggest it to be? Where would it be reasonable for you to pick up your child or drop off your child? Where could it be possible for you to do that? So that's another way to go. And the why questions, of course. Why did it happen? Why would you like it this way? Why do you believe this is the best way to go? Why do you believe this is possible? These are all opportunities for open-ended questions. The next one is perception checking. And perception checking is a way to make sure that what we are perceiving in the conversation is accurate according to what the person meant. Sometimes the person may say something and we may understand something completely different. So it's very good to once in a while perception check, make sure we are on the same page so that we avoid misunderstanding. And that's a simple way of doing that, is just repeating what we hear. Say, I hear you saying blah, blah, blah. Is that accurate? That question in the end is crucial. It seems to me that you're feeling betrayed, or you're feeling bad, or you're feeling upset. You're feeling that you were taken advantage of. Is that correct? Or please correct me if I'm wrong. I understood you saying this and that. Is that right? Right? It sounds like you're going through a lot now. Is that true? It sounds like this is not the best time in your life, and this has been a very difficult situation. Is that true for you? So you always double checking what you hear. And it's very important here point out that this is not mind reading. And sometimes we do this so unconsciously. Oh, I heard you say this and that, which means, I heard you say that if you're upset, which means you don't want to talk to them. Not necessarily. So we really don't want to interpret what the person is saying. We don't want to do this mind reading. We want to check what do they really mean. From what you shared, I understand that you have no interest in this situation. I don't know. Is that correct? Right? We don't want to do the mind reading. We want to avoid the mind reading, because then we are interjecting and imposing certain things that are not present. The other communication technique is permission, asking for permission. So it's an intentional way of asking for their consent before we move forward. It demonstrates respect and collaboration. It checks, is the other person ready for this? It creates trust and teamwork. So it's like, do you allow me to offer a suggestion? Are you open to a consideration? Would you be open to hear a suggestion? Do I have your permission to bring something here into the conversation? And so you offer an opportunity for the person to present whether they're ready or not. And if they're not ready, it's better not to present, at least not at that point in the conversation. So it's best to wait. Okay, I'll wait and we'll do it later. But asking for permission invites teamwork and invites the dialogue, so we can go in the same pace during the conversation. The next one is offer considerations. And that means that we are presenting ideas, proposals, or concerns without imposing it upon them. We are presenting them with empathy and clarity and understanding for their considerations. So we frame our contributions in terms of considerations. This is not a conclusion. I'm not anointing the situation with this. I'm just offering this for consideration. So it acknowledges the respect again and the mutual dialogue that we're creating here, so that you're offering something as a gift, as a consideration. And this sounds like, may I offer a few considerations that might help you move forward? Something that may be worth considering is, right? It would be interesting to consider this and that and that. So it's really good here to use a non-imposing tone, to allow the opportunity for reflection, to take a break, to take a breath, offer the consideration and allow that to kind of integrate, choose the timing of bringing those forward. It can be preceded by a permission request. Do I have your permission to offer a consideration? And often, and also be aware of the paraverbal communication in the other person's response, right? Their facial expressions, or whether they are open or not to the consideration that you will bring forward. The next communication skill here, I call it the smooth silence. And that has to do with wait, right? Wait, it stands for why am I talking? Sometimes we are better off silent. And so why am I talking invites us to reflect. Is this a good time to talk? Is this silence creating a strategic pause here? Not only to avoid interruption, but silence can allow for depth. We don't need to rescue people from the discomfort of silence. A lot of people are very uncomfortable with silence, and it's okay to be uncomfortable, because it is in that discomfort that things may be moving in their consciousness. It's allowing them a deeper level of self-reflection. So to have the presence and the confidence to hold the silence. right? And sometimes it's kind of what's shown here in the chart. This is what I propose, and pause. Let that proposal sink in. You can use this to model self-regulation as well, to model your own emotional regulation. So just pause before you answer questions, absorb the question before answering, or you can pause after asking the question, allowing the other person to absorb what you just asked. When a vague or a strategic point comes up, give it a pause, let it sink, let people kind of resonate with the importance of what was just brought forward. And when deeper elaboration is needed, sometimes, yes, that pause allows us to kind of process things in a deeper way. So what we're looking here is for strategic ways to use silence to promote depth. We are not talking about the close off, distracted silence where we are disconnecting or rejecting or avoiding something. We are talking about silence with a capital S, where we are using it strategically to promote depth. The next one is apology. An apology, often it's an unexpected reaction in mediation. People are not expecting an apology. So it can be really helpful in just disarming what's present. But apology is an intentional act to acknowledge whether there's been harm or misunderstanding or unmet expectations. When trust is damaged, when there is an emotional situation that has been highly charged, or in order to just model constructive behavior, it's very nice to create an apology. And in order to do an apology, we do want to kind of follow these guidelines. We want to acknowledge the impact that it had on the other person. I can see that what I said hurt you, and I'm sorry for that, right? We want to take ownership for what we've done. It's not about shifting blame. Okay, it wasn't my intention, but yes, I do take full responsibility for the way I came across here. I am sorry, right? We want to understand the other person's experience. I understand that what I said was very upsetting to you, and this matters to me, so I'm sorry. And commit to do better. Well, I understand that what I said really hurt you. Here's what I'll do different next time. I will send you an email beforehand so that you have the situation by email, you can reflect, and then we can talk about it. And so we can create ways to do better or to repair. Those are very important parts of an apology. And we want to make sure we have that in mind. But why we apologize? We apologize to diffuse tension, to invite accountability. We do it to restore dignity. Apology doesn't mean that we agree with what's happening or that we agree with what the person is saying. It just means I acknowledge that the impact that it has on you. I acknowledge that you feel hurt. I acknowledge that you feel that way. It's not an agreement. It's an acknowledgement of the impact. And it's a genuine sign of leadership. Only the strong apologize. Only the strong forgive. And so the ability to move that way really shows the leadership and the inner strength to recognize what's present in the other person's side. And so this can be very effective in mediation, of course. The mediator can often demonstrate this communication technique, just apologizing for a simple thing. Oh, I am sorry, I misunderstood what you said. So here's what I hear you saying now. Is that correct? So it can be small apologies that can model that which you want to create, the environment that you want to create in mediation. And finally, gratitude. Gratitude is also a very important tool because you're creating, you are planting seeds for the environment that you're trying to foster here. And gratitude is a great seed to plant. So it's just recognizing effort along the way, acknowledging small progresses. You're humanizing the interaction. It's like positive reinforcements that you offer along the way. So anytime a party in a mediation take a risk or is vulnerable, you want to acknowledge that. I really see how hard it must have been for you to come to this level of vulnerability or to share this. Thank you for your honesty. Thank you for sharing, right? Something like that. When someone makes a concession, thank you for making this concession. Thank you for your flexibility and your cooperation here. So you want to highlight that through gratitude. Where there is tension, to validate any kind of emotional labor. I'm so grateful that you were able to overcome this. I see how hard it has been. Thank you. And so these are very important tools for the mediator. Often you can be specific about the actions of the words. I really appreciate your openness when you said this and this and that. You can be very specific. Also offer it authentically. Of course, you don't want to do this superficially. You will really want to do this in a heartfelt way. Thank you for clarifying that. It really helps me understand. It helps me a lot in moving forward here. Just be authentic. You want to rebuild or maintain or build a rapport. I know this isn't easy, and I'm grateful you are willing to stay here. I'm grateful you're willing to come into this conversation. And you want to balance it with professionalism. Thank you for your patience while we were drafting the agreement. Thank you for waiting. Thank you for helping, or whatever way, right, that we can bring that gratitude. And so, of course, gratitude is a beautiful way to strengthen trust and continued cooperation. It's like you want to acknowledge that which you want to see more of. You want to do the positive reinforcement so that you encourage those aspects to continue to be exercised. You want to reinforce the emotional safety, the psychological safety, and the mutual respect that you want to create in the mediation. And you want to create the bridge there. You're a bridge builder, right? And gratitude is a wonderful way to do that. So the key takeaways from this presentation is all these 12 beautiful 12 communication skills. Intention articulation, where you lead with a clear intention and a clear purpose. The matching principle, where you start mirroring the other in order to create a connection and create trust. Casual connection, which is a way of humanizing our connection. So beyond the conflict, beyond the issue, we are all humans, and we can find a commonality there. The active listening, which is listening beyond what's said, listening beyond the words. Perception checking, it's clarifying what's being said, not assuming anything. Open-ended questions is ask, don't tell, right? We want to ask, we don't want to tell what's going on. We want them to tell us. Framing and explaining is guiding with care, is providing, preparing the context in which the message can be delivered. Permission, is creating a culture of consent. Considerations is the offering, the gifting instead of imposing. Smooth silence, which is to honor the silence in a strategic way, in a dialogue, in a mediation. Apology is the opportunity to repair with sincerity, and also to show the emotional connection of understanding the impact on the other person. And gratitude, which is planting seeds of what we want to create and acknowledging the human effort on what you're doing. And here I invite you to just take on some reflective inquiries. Which of these skills do you already use intuitively? Which are more common to you? How do they show up for you in your mediations and in your conversations, in your day-to-day interactions? Which of these skills do you tend to avoid or forget, especially when you are under stress? Why might that be? Why is it that you forget or you avoid some of these skills? And what would it look like to practice all of them, especially the ones we avoid and forget, more consciously, create a way of practicing them more strategically, more consciously? Well, thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoyed the presentation. Thank you so much.